So it's intensely personal for us in a number of ways. In addition, Mary Pat was 2 blocks from the Trade Center on 9/11. She came through the Trade Center that day to go to work and was in her building 2 blocks away when the planes hit. So, and I lost contact with her for nearly 6 hours that day and didn't know, whether she was dead or alive. Those kind of recollections are really emotional. For me, and especially for our oldest son, for Andrew, who's the one who really has a recollection of that day. For me, being governor, remember, I was nominated to be U.S. Attorney by President Bush on September 10th, 2001. So my life changed significantly on September 10th, and then changed even more on September 11th, 2001. So it's a pretty emotional and pivotal time in my life, those 2 days, the 10th and the 11th of September. And my entire time as U.S. Attorney was defined in large measure by the aftermath of September 11th and the war on terrorism from a legal perspective that we pursued in the Justice Department. So there's me and a lot of the U.S. Assistant U.S. United States Attorney colleagues that I brought with me to the governor's office were involved with the response to 9/11. Many of those folks like Charlie McKenna and Michelle Brown and others were involved in staffing the Victim Assistance Center right on the site of where the memorial is, where families came to find that information about their loved ones. So it'll be a very emotional week for everybody. My son has a friend who's, my oldest son, Andrew, has a friend whose dad was killed on September 11th. And what struck me just this past week was that now this young man has lived longer without his father than he lived with him. He's 17 years old now. He was 8 when his father died. And so for folks who are thinking about the meaning of what we're going to go through over the next week, I would suggest respectfully that you think about kids like that, whose lives have been forever changed by that moment, not to have a father, and to now have lived more years of his life without his dad than he lived with him. I think about, that young man and others all the time, as I'm lucky enough to watch my own son grow up at the same age, and hope that you have some positive influence on them over time, and know that this father didn't have that opportunity, and this son doesn't have that opportunity. If you're going to say a prayer for anybody over the next week, say a prayer for those kids who will go the rest of their lives without a dad or a mom in some instances, and those spouses who are going to go without a husband or a wife. That never will change for them. Our lives have changed in comparatively inconsequential ways. For them, every day is that type of event. For me, it's a very emotional time when I reflect on the loss of, some friends, and a time when Mary Pat and I count our blessings for the fact that she was among the survivors that day. Because believe me, I was sitting at home with a 8-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter and a 14-month-old son, contemplating for 5 or 6 hours what it might be like to be a single parent. That tends to clarify things a lot in your life, and it's an interesting time and an important time for me and Mary Pat as people who are honored now to have the opportunity to lead the state, to reflect on the blessings that we all have in our lives compared to those who suffered that great loss. So it's an important time. We'll be talking a lot about it over the course of the next few days and into the weekend. And I think it's really important for all Americans, but especially New Jerseyans, to take some time to really reflect and thank God for their blessings and pray for the lost souls and their families who survived. If we do that, then I think we'll be doing something that's really good and needed for the people who made that sacrifice.